Ladies and gentlemen, independent Americans around the country, around the world, in Afghanistan, and especially here at home, focused on the most important issue in the world. Afghanistan continues to fall into chaos. It is thankfully still at the front of the news cycle, and it's definitely the number one topic for us here on Independent Americans. We want to continue to bring you light to contrast the heat and continue to bring you important insights that you're not getting anywhere else. Our guest today is somebody I've wanted on this show since it started. For a lot of different reasons, she couldn't join us. She was on active duty. She had jobs that wouldn't allow it, but she is very much a leader of the moment who is in the middle of all of this. She is one of the finest activists I've ever known. She's a dear friend. She sits with me on the board at IAVA. She founded the New York City Veterans Alliance. I think a generation from now, she will go down as a legend of our community and of our time in more ways than we understand right now. But she's a tremendous individual. She's in the middle of it right now. We're going to hear more about that. The great and powerful Kristen Rouse finally joins us. Welcome.
Thank you, Paul. It is an honor to be on this show. This has been such a great lineup that you've had, and I really appreciate you asking me to be on. Number one,
I wish we had lots of drinks for this because it's been a really hard time. And I love you very much. And I am so grateful for all that you're doing. We've been in, almost hourly touch, I don't know, for a couple of years on a lot of different issues, on everything from the GI Bill, don't ask, don't tell, mental health. But you have been thrust to the forefront of the national consciousness on this issue in a way that I think is very important. And what you're dealing with, in the same way Zeller and Jane and a few others are, is really surreal. So I'm going to ask you this for everyone to hear. How are you? And where are you?
Well, surreal is kind of like the entry point to get at what this has felt like. I'm in my living room in New York City, right here in Brooklyn. But this has been a deployment. This has turned into an operations center. I have stuff rearranged, this is sort of the TV ready shot, but I'm not showing you all the rest of this, but it's been, it has truly felt like a deployment. It has truly felt like, every night, which is daytime Afghanistan time, all through the night, the last several nights, it's been like having troops out in contact every single night. And except for our troops have no body armor. They have no vehicles with armor. Their dads, their moms, their young children, who we are trying to get into the one exit point right now of a nation that has been taken over by a horrific dark force. And people are desperate to get out. There's one exit point. And as we've been messaging back and forth, as Matt Zeller has been talking about, as so many people have been talking about, people can't get in. People can't get in the gates to be able to fly out and escape the Taliban, who are threatening them, who are texting them. We know who you are. We have your number. We know where you are. They're sending letters. They're pounding on doors. They're absolutely terrorizing people. And outside of the airport, they are shooting, AKs, Dishkas into the crowd, and beating people and insulting them and refusing passage, even for our friends who have all the right paperwork. And so, it's like 10 days now, troops in contact every night, and except for I have all of my soldiers are remote, and we don't have a Blue Force tracker. We don't have all the technology that we had in theater. We're this is all DIY. We're all doing it ourselves.
So, Kristen, you did 31 months in Afghanistan. You founded, a group to advocate on behalf of veterans that in New York City that I think was really the leading voice and in many ways a key ally to IAVA. And we worked, hand in glove on so many things. You have thankfully been able to shape this understanding for a lot of people in the national media and the international media. They're calling you. But I want to ask you as best you can. I feel like the human component of this is being lost. In the last couple of days, the White House and the administration have tripled down on pushing out numbers of how many they're saving daily, but they're not giving the context of how many remain, how many are dying, how many are being wounded, how many will never make it out. So I want to try to pick apart a couple pieces that I don't think are being understood anywhere else. To include, I want you to help people understand the Taliban, because I don't think they do. I don't think our president does. But right now, you and countless other veterans are running this digital Dunkirk, right? This underground railroad, and it's happening in living rooms across the country. And there's a degree of coordination, but can you talk about in real time, I know you want to keep things confidential. We had to delay this interview a little bit. We may have to cut it short. Why? What's happening right now that you can share with people to help them understand the obscenity of this?
I feel like I would be, I could talk to you for hours about this. Just right now and the situation that I'm monitoring, and if you hear any notifications or we have to, edit this for me to sort of jump to what's happening in real time. My own translator, we have been trying to get out. We thought we had a solution lined up for him 30 hours ago. We sent him out from the safe house that he and his family were hiding in. They were having to change different locations for days. We had him out at gates, the last few days, to try to get him in. He was not able to get in. There was just all this violence. His children are weeping and screaming and traumatized by all of just the abject violence that is happening outside of these gates, absolutely unchecked by any military. The Taliban basically are running the entire outside of the airport. And so 30 hours ago, we said, okay, it's time to go. Go to this location. He could not get to that location because of the masses of crowds, just the human masses that are gathered outside of this airport, because it is the one exit point from Afghanistan for those who are being terrorized by Taliban. And so so all of these things keep not working out. He's sending me map dots of here's where I am. Can you send someone to get me? And we've been trying to get somebody to go get him. And he's literally having to move his family and his wife and young children from location to location, because they are actually he doesn't have a beard. They're finding him. They're saying, who are you? What are you doing here? What are you trying to do? Where are you trying to go? And he's he'll put his family in one place and then try to hide himself, because he's the person who's being targeted because he served with us. And the Taliban they have even said their intent is to keep Afghans from getting into the airport to leave the country. They have stated that. And they are being very effective in doing that. And so for 30 hours, he has been out running around on the ground, and we're still trying everything that we can to find a solution, to connect with international agencies, to connect with all anybody that we know through all of these networks, to say can you do this? And that and it's oh well you need for him to have this paper. Oh well, he needs to have this paper. Well, now the rules at the gate have changed, so he needs this different paper. No. Well, they're not letting these people on flights, so they're not letting them in the gate now. It's changed from the last 3 hours. So even since he's been on the ground, the game has changed. The rules of the game keep changing. Paul, I feel like I have an imagination, but I'll sit and just think about things, about how could things go? What could the worst scenario be? And the ship has sailed on things that I could imagine about a week ago.
You want me to cut that, or you want me to keep this part?
Keep it.
Yeah.
Keep
so we're back. So we had a little break there, and you're back. And in that break, if you can, what's going on? What can you share to give people an insight into how this is going down real time?
I mean, without getting deep in the weeds, just it's every single day there has been a new set of rules. Here's what's being accepted at the gate. Here's the paperwork you need, and it just keeps shifting, flipping. And what they told us didn't work last Friday. They now went now, and it's just and it's when I've talked with people, because a lot of the time that we're spending, on, what is it that Digital Dunkirk is doing? What is it that Kristen Rouse is doing? What am I doing with my days when I say, quote, I'm helping Afghans? What am I doing? It is referring paperwork. It is bureaucracy. It is bureaucracy to say, hello, what paperwork do you have? Send me all your paperwork. Okay, here's all the paperwork to see, okay, here's what they have. Okay, what other paperwork do they need? Do they have, where is, their visa application and status? Because effectively, the State Department, or the embassy in Kabul, rather, they just stopped. They just stopped. It ended. They didn't even tell people, hey, those appointments that you have next week, yeah, we're not doing it because there's no embassy anymore. They didn't even, and so Afghans who know to follow the letter of the law, they're like, I have this paper, it's not canceled, I have to report to the embassy because they told me, if I don't report, then I lose everything.
Let me hold you there. Yeah. Let me hold you there.
Yeah.
So I've described it as the DMV line from hell, and if you don't get to the front of the line, you die. It's also kind of like, I worked security at concerts and at events, and anybody who's maybe been to a football game, at a big football game or a big concert, and you're trying to get one person in, right? And maybe somebody's in VIP and the other person's not in VIP, except this is life or death, right? And we're asking Afghans to change as the rules change, where they don't have a printer. Where do they charge their cell phones?
Surprised.
Right. But they're being resourceful, right? But it's not like they're in their living room and they can work this problem. So you guys are really becoming this bureaucratic special operations, unit that has to go through and push this. I think it's really important for people to understand it's a bureaucratic failure. And Zeller, said this week, for everybody who says, oh, it didn't have to be like this. Well, they started this in July. A couple of weeks ago. They could have started this in April. And they could have had the pieces in place. So let me ask you this. What's happening now? Biden has announced August 31st, we're getting out, which I don't believe. Maybe he'll do that. Maybe he won't. And if he does, what's the cost? We see today that Poland has stopped pulling people out. They're starting to pull plugs, right? Can you explain what that means to the people you're trying to help? And frankly, what does it mean to you? Because you and I are now arguing out in the open with a lot of people, especially Democrats, who are saying, this is going great. This is a great news story. Look at how many tens of thousands they've gotten out. And they want a pat on the back for getting people out of a crisis that they did accelerate. And it would not have happened like this no matter what. That's bullshit. And so we've started to try to say, hey, yes, they're getting out. They call it now today 80,000. But Wartime Allies has said they got to get at least 250,000 out. Maybe it's more. But what has this crush? They're basically pulling plugs and shutting doors while everybody's rushing for that exit. So what is happening now?
The Afghans know that the window is closing, and it's very possible that that any windows that might have been open for them to get out may not be there within the next few days, let alone after the end of August. There's a lot of rumors on the ground. Some of them I have heard from credible places. We don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you what's going to happen an hour from now, but because it keeps changing and surprising me. But so we see that the door will close. The door is closing. The metaphor that I keep thinking of is we have this giant burning building. We have a giant burning building. The building is in flames. There are a lot of people in there. We know they need to get out. all of us are standing there watching this happening, saying, get our friends out, get our friends out. They're shouting to us from the window. They're shouting to us on social media, on phone calls. We know exactly who's in there. And it feels like the firefighters are just are saying to them, well, no, well, you have to have this application if we're going to consider getting you out. No, do you have this form? No, what's the date on the form? No, but do you have this form? Do you have this form today? And effectively, they are being kept from leaving the door. And just because they managed to let perhaps 5 to 10% out of that building based on their ability to meet these ever-changing bureaucratic requirements, let's say they get 5 to 10% of the people out of the burning building. If the rest of those people don't get out, there is nothing of a success. That is a failure, and it is bloodshed, it is death, it is preventable.
Can you talk about right now, Kristen, the politics of this? Biden, in my view, continues to double down and be disconnected from the reality. He's somewhat stopped victim shaming the Afghans, but it's clear that they're digging in here. And the story they're going to try to tell is it would have happened either way. And we did a marvelous job getting out a bunch of people. That seems like the story they want to tell now. And they're pushing hard on numbers across every channel. It's what Jen Psaki and all the other spokespeople are pushing. I've never seen the veterans community more united across partisan lines, across every line. But we feel really isolated it feels like 2004, 2003, when we were saying, hey, don't believe the White House, don't believe the Pentagon. Things are not okay in Iraq. We didn't have enough body armor. The insurgency is coming. So, and Bush was digging in, right? And then over time, we all saw the truth. So I feel like the ground truth is something we're very uniquely connected to right now, and the president's not. Can you talk about the politics of this? You've testified before Congress. You've met with folks in the White House. I think it's critical right now because I'm losing trust in our commander in chief on this. And I think therefore on other issues, because he doesn't seem to either understand or want to face the reality of what's happening. So can you drill down on that point right now? What are you thinking when you hear from Biden? And I'm going to ask you, what comes next? They want to get back to infrastructure in 2 weeks. They want to get back to voting rights in 2 weeks. What happens in 2 or 3 weeks in Afghanistan if it continues to go this way? And what could happen in the U.S.? A lot of questions there, but maybe start with what's your reaction to their messaging and the president?
The veterans, the Afghan American community, we're the ones who are hearing the screams of everyone in the burning building. And it feels like from the outside, from these press conferences, from these briefings, it feels like they're telling us that those people just aren't in the building and that the screams we're hearing aren't real. When these are, in the cases of the many Afghan Americans who've been part of this entire effort, these are family members. These are family members. These are loved ones. I'm part of my team is one of my interpreters who made it over. He's a U.S. citizen. He's trying to get his dad out. He's trying to get his brother, his cousin. And when we talk daily about it, and he's just bereft. He is bereft. And and I care about the people I worked with, but to watch your own family in a hopeless situation and to have a window closing. And if the window on getting people out closes, just to be real, the Taliban can take down, communications at any time because they own the infrastructure now. They can take down cell phone towers. They can take out the internet. They can make sure that the entire nation of Afghanistan goes dark. And so that anything that they choose to do, anything that they're doing now that they choose to escalate, will not be seen by the outside world. And so it's absolute horror, and to not have that reality reflected by the team in charge just feels like an added blow. It's devastating. And to be honest, I can't even process it right now. because we're too busy trying to do what we can, and we're gonna worry about all that later.
Can I ask you to stop for a minute and help people who may not understand what we need to worry about later? Because I think this is part of where the White House has been sugarcoating it. You're a woman who served on the ground for 31 months, an American. What are the Taliban going to do, and what have they done? Because people need to understand that this is not just, like a reasonable group of people that we can negotiate with. That's part of what I think is most stunning and feels like gaslighting, how the Biden administration says, well, we're going to ask the Afghans to let us go through, and we're going to ask them for these. We're playing this game of Mother May I. But describe the Taliban for people who haven't been there.
The Taliban's entire thing is just nihilism. They prey upon people, poor people, who just have a society that's suffered from decades of foreign invasions, from the Soviets to proxy wars. The proxy war with the U.S. funded, Pakistan funded Mujahideen fighting the Soviets. That created a monster that was unleashed and did so much, a second wave of destruction in Afghanistan. And then the next wave after that was the Taliban. And, there's just been so much destruction, so much damage of family ties, tribal infrastructure, societal infrastructure, and education. And the wisdom that has been passed from generation to generation, that in so many places has been broken. And so you have people just preyed upon by people saying, let us tell you about this religion. Let us tell you about this religion that will save us. And also, here's what you will do in the name of this religion. When, I was at a rally with Afghan Americans, and they were chanting, Taliban is not Islam. It is not Islam. It is a cult. It is a cult. It is a violent gang. They beat people. They target minorities. They target women. They target men who don't conform to their cult, and just vicious beatings, assassinations, public executions, just the absolute brutality that we see from the Taliban. And it has been happening in real time, even since, we've been, quote, negotiating with them. These are the same old leaders. These are the same old dudes who've been there this whole time, and they have not changed. They have perhaps shifted in how they manage their public relations. I think that has certainly changed. Mm-hmm. And, maybe someone took a shower in there, but it's, these are the same old bad dudes. And I can say that definitively because I am hearing from people on the ground saying, I just watched the Taliban beat the crap out of old people, children, and women. I mean, my interpreter, last night, he said, I can't believe what I just watched. I can't believe what I just watched. And he was devastated and had to tell me about it. He's hiding for his life, but he had to message me and tell me what he just watched and the grief that he felt watching Taliban beating vulnerable people who are desperate to leave, and while his own life is threatened. For him to feel such empathy and horror for what he watched. I mean, I don't understand how people don't see the Taliban for what it is. It's just so abhorrent. This is we all grow up watching Nazi movies, and we're all yeah, the Nazis were really bad. These are this is every bit as bad as any Nazi in a Steven Spielberg movie, and worse. These are cruel, horrific, terrible people.
Kristen, the political spin is changing public opinion, right? A lot of people feel they're buying the spin from the White House and others saying this would have happened anyway. If we stayed 20 years, we stayed 21 years, this would have happened anyway. Look at how many people we've gotten out. No Americans have been killed. This is a success. That's what Jen Psaki said yesterday. And you see them doubling down on that message now. And that's their political calculation, calling this a success and hoping that everybody moves on. Can you respond to that, especially from people like Chris Murphy, the Democratic senator from Connecticut, and also talk about moral injury? I think this is a piece that the American public doesn't understand, that we are experiencing, that Vietnam veterans are experiencing, that many in our country are experiencing. Can you please shape that up for people?
Going back to the burning building, we know the names of the people in that burning building. We know how close the flames are to them. We know the smoke. We saw one jump from an airplane. A young man fell from an airplane trying to get out. We're seeing this. We know the names of people. We know who they are. And yeah, we can say, you know what, the building would have burned anyway. The building would have come down anyway. It was not structurally sound. We didn't have it together. There weren't the right building inspectors. Nobody could maintain it. It was coming down anyway. Well, do you demo the building with people in it? Mm-hmm. Or do you wait till you evacuate? Do you make a plan? Or do you do it in the middle of the night while everyone's sleeping? Because like it's not, was it tenable? Could we do it? Could we like the geopolitics, like those conversations are like just to be honest with you, like I hope this is the last geopolitical conversation about like Afghanistan. What should we have done? Like, I hope this is the last conversation that I will ever have about that. Because since the 15th, since the Taliban took Kabul, the only thing that has mattered or should matter is the human lives, the people we know, the people who served with us, the people who boldly put their lives on the line because they believed in a free Afghanistan. They believed in a democratic Afghanistan. They believed that they had the right to choose who led them. They believed that they had the right to a government that they could petition and say, you know what, we don't like you, but we need you to do something better. You know, like they believed in a free media. They believed in serving in the military. They believed in all of these things. And they are trapped. So some people have described it as a hostage situation. Nobody chose the Taliban. None of the Afghan people said, you know what, that's who I want. Like maybe there's a few people out there, but like the Afghan people did not choose this. A deal was made by a country other than theirs. Like if you remember, you know, the negotiations last year specifically did not include any officials from the Republic of Afghanistan. There were no, like we can criticize the government, but like none of those guys were even in the room when the deal was being made with the Taliban. So keep that in mind. But the Afghans did not choose the Taliban for their government. There is one exit. They are choosing to exit right now. Everyone who is standing, the thousands upon thousands of people right at this moment who are standing outside the airport are saying, we want out. We did not choose this government. We did not choose this regime. We will not live like this. We would rather die trying to get out than live like this. And they are being kept from that very exit. They are being held hostage. They are being held hostage by bureaucracy, by gatekeepers, by brutality at the gate. They cannot get out. The borders are blocked by Taliban checkpoints that are even more brutal than the characters that we see at the Kabul airport. They can't get out. They are trapped in a country under a regime they reject. And many of them are going to be targeted and killed. They are being targeted and killed as we speak. And it is coming. It is coming. And everyone knows it's coming. And we're just trying to pull people out.
Kristen, a lot of folks are saying, well, this wasn't Biden's fault. Trump negotiated this agreement. There's a lot of double talk from Biden here, where he wants to be strong, but for some reason he feels a need to honor an agreement that Donald Trump created, right, with a group of people that we understand are evil. They've called the election lie the big lie. I feel like this is the big betrayal. This is a betrayal that spans so much bigger than Afghanistan, so much bigger than this moment, so much bigger than the military. But I've said before that the veterans sometimes are the guardians. If America's a religion, veterans are the clergy. They're trying to guard the integrity of the country in the same way they had to when Trump wanted to, roll out the military after the election. We heard how many times they had to push back against Trump. I think it's hard for people to understand now, because he's so empathetic, because he's been so good on so many issues, that many people are doing the same thing with Biden now. It's clear now Biden rolled the military. He rolled human rights groups. He didn't listen to 45 veterans groups and people like you and Matt Zeller. He still hasn't even made the attempt to bring them in to show he's listening and he cares. Can you frame this up? You're a historian. You're a great student. You're a great teacher. How big is this? Explain why it's bigger than Afghanistan for America, and why I think it's about the soul of America and something that is going to haunt us, may come back, and our kids may have to deal with.
When in the history that we study have we just bailed on our allies? When have we, when did we go to Europe and say, what, we're going to be part of liberating France? But you know what? Just kidding. We're going to pull out, and we're actually going to let someone lock you all in and exterminate you. Goodbye. This moves just, again, just outside looking in and just trying to make any kind of sense of it. It's Afghanistan is on the opposite side of the world. Even after 20 years of troops being there, I think, most Americans probably couldn't locate it on a map. I remember when I was deployed there, I would get, I would get, cards and letters saying, how's it going in Iraq? That's there's like a whole giant country in between Afghanistan and Iraq, or people will call Afghanistan the Middle East when it is not. You could call it like Central Asia, like the gateway to South Asia, whatever, it is definitely not the Middle East. And, or just like geography, it just baffles people with that. Or, or to say can Americans name any of the languages that they speak, or name a city? Maybe they know Kandahar because it's been in movies or something, or on the news, but find me these places that so many of us know, so many Afghanistan veterans, we could draw Afghanistan on a map and dot a bunch of the cities, I could probably identify more cities accurately in Afghanistan than I could in a state like Montana, just because I know it better, I've been to Afghanistan plenty of times, never been to Montana. Sorry, Montana. I'm sure it's beautiful. I want to go there one day. But, but it's just, it's the geography, I think just baffles people, and the culture baffles people. What is it, what are people like? People think that, from the news, from the movies, that it's just like this giant ashtray of a place, when it is a beautiful landscape that just captivates you. And I think no matter what your experiences were and how you come away with it, there's something that just gets in you about the mountains, about the people, about the villages, how they just the unbelievably sophisticated agriculture that they develop. There's a desert, but then here's these beautiful, rich orchards, because they have such incredible ways of diverting water, and it's just to just kind of admire that from a roadside convoy and be like, how'd they do that? How did people do that? And the livestock, seeing people out working in the fields, or children by the roadside, or what, it's just, there's something that just feels really like mythical. And I don't mean to like exoticize it in any way, but what I do mean to say is that it's beautiful and like nothing I've ever seen in my life. And you know, and I've said to people, said to Afghan Americans that I would love to go back. I would love to spend time there and actually enjoy it, because it is such a beautiful country, beautiful hospitality, incredible food, you know, like the food they'll prepare for you, you know, I mean, it's just, it's such it's a treasure. It is a treasure.
Kristen, I just want to thank you for humanizing this. I think so much more than anyone else that's been in the media and telling stories and carrying stories of others for the last couple of weeks, and really for, you know, a decade or more on so many issues. I mean, you've been so brave on women's issues. You've been so brave on equality issues. You've been so brave on national security issues. But right now, what you're doing better than anybody else I've seen is showing the humanity of the Afghan people and questioning the humanity of the American people. And you are a conscience. And I think I just want to, you know, maybe wrap this conversation by, I know people in Afghanistan are listening, and I know people in the White House are listening, and I want them to know that we're not stopping. After August 31st, you've pissed off a lot of really motivated, dedicated, effective people, and we're not stopping. You know, whether it's the political people in Congress or the veterans on the ground or the Afghan, like, we're going to keep after this, and we're going to do our best to save as many as we can, and to try to figure out the path forward. So it's not a silver lining, but it's a truth that I think more Americans are going to understand over the next couple of weeks, how united and focused so many people are in trying to save the humanity of Afghanistan and try to save some of the humanity of the United States. So I want to let you get back to the work. And I'm going to keep folks updated as best I can. I'm going to ask you to come back. Next episode, we're going to talk to, unless he cancels on us, Congressman Pete Meyer, who just came back from Afghanistan with Seth Moulton. Some are calling it a political stunt. Some are calling it, you know, a great strategic move. Either way, it's keeping it in the news. And I think you're going to see over the next couple of weeks, even if Biden tries to turn the page, we're not going to let him. And Kristen is giving hope and inspiration to so many people. So I want to thank you for that. You're an incredible human being, and I wanted to have you on the show just so I could tell you that, and so that more people can hear your voice on all things. And, you know, if we have leaders in politics like you in the future, we're going to be in a lot better hands than what we've got now. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Paul.
Stay vigilant, Kristen. Stay vigilant. Everybody follow her and stay tuned.